The stellar assembly chamber hovered silently above the Charnak Nebula, a massive structure of gleaming alloys and energy fields suspended across several kilometers of orbital space. Inside, 218 delegates of 43 starfaring civilizations occupied atmospheric containment spheres, each individually pressurized and tuned to the environmental preferences of its occupant. The air hummed faintly with oxygen, nitrogen, exotic gases, and the occasional vibration of alien physiology. A flicker on the central holographic display drew every eye. Crimson digits rotated in space, hovering above the dais like a verdict of unimaginable magnitude. 512,834. Admiral Harcott's clawed hands rested on the podium as he spoke. His voice was low, grating, a rasp that carried authority without ceremony. Dreadnought-class vessels. Every one of them capable of planetary devastation. Silence descended on the chamber. The faint hum of the containment spheres became the only sound. Alien delegates, each a study in evolutionary adaptation, stared at the rotating numbers as if the very fabric of reality had warped. The Ulithian delegates' fronds twitched in disbelief. The Garanians' air processor wheezed nervously. These were civilizations that had waged wars for centuries, yet they had never imagined a force like this. Harcott manipulated the holographic display. The camera shifted to a star chart, revealing clusters of red icons stretching across the Carina Veil. The nebula's violet and gold clouds, once thought an impassable frontier, concealed a staggering reality. Row upon row of human dreadnoughts, 19 light-years of fleet, hidden in the cosmic background. We designed the scanner to detect mass concentrations through nebular interference, Harcott continued, his voice precise, each word a weapon. Its original purpose was mapping mineral deposits. Instead, it pierced sectors previously considered uninhabited, dead zones. What we found was not empty space. It was humanity's armada. A murmur rippled through the delegates. A voice from the Ulithian Dominion spoke, tentative. Admiral, the combined fleet strength of the Stellar Assembly is approximately 48,000 capital ships. You are suggesting the humans possess 10 times our combined military capability. Harcott's gaze swept across the room. At minimum, the scanner's range is limited. There may be more. The implications hung in the air like ionized gas, terrifying and incomprehensible. For 3 centuries, the Stellar Assembly had tolerated humanity as a curiosity. Loud, chaotic, occasionally amusing. A minor strategic factor. Neutrality had been easy. Misjudgment, however, could now be catastrophic. From the Chlororian delegation, Prefect Zill's voice rolled through the chamber like continental drift. What you present is alarming, Admiral. The presence of these ships proves existence. Intent remains unknown. Harcott's interruption was sharp, cutting like a blade. A species that constructs 500,000 dreadnoughts prepares for conquest. This is design. Coordination. Strategic vision spanning decades, perhaps centuries. It is preparation for war. A debate erupted. Delegates shouted across translation fields, their voices overlapping in chaotic polyphony. Each species wrestled with the reality of a human civilization whose capabilities defied conventional logic. Zill, ancient and deliberate, extended his craggy head from its protective shell. You cannot declare war without verification. The accused party has rights to diplomatic clarification. Harcott's armored frame loomed over the chamber. Verification will take time. We may not survive that long if humanity intends aggression. The assembly teetered on the brink of chaos. Votes would be called within hours. Preemptive strikes, diplomatic ultimatums, the balance of power, everything hinged on understanding the motivations of a species that no model could predict. Outside the chamber, in the mediation garden, Inzreli sat beneath an artificial willow tree, watching genetically engineered koi glide through water synthesized from Calorian ice comets. She was small by human standards, half human, half Volani, yet entirely unique. Her hybrid physiology allowed her to bridge the incomprehensible gulf between human chaos and alien logic. Her headset chirped, urgent. The Stellar Assembly demanded her presence. 15 votes stood between diplomacy and catastrophe. She rose, adjusting her uniform and sealing her access protocols. The koi scattered in startled bursts, their oblivious movements a sharp contrast to the political storm she was about to enter. Inside the chamber, Harcott presented the evidence again. The human dreadnoughts, spread across 4 galactic arms, their sheer numbers beyond comprehension. Inz listened, absorbing the cold logic of the Admiral's analysis. A preemptive strike would annihilate hundreds of human worlds. And yet, She knew humanity's motives were often inscrutable, their actions guided by creativity as much as necessity. She entered the chamber and silence fell. Every gaze turned to her. The pressurized spheres vibrated slightly as delegates instinctively braced for confrontation. Inns crossed the floor with quiet determination, her diplomatic training keeping each step purposeful. Harkot's eyes, dark and calculating, locked onto hers. "Matashi Reli," he said, voice resonant. "You are aware of the evidence. Can you explain humanity's intentions?" Her voice was calm, measured, as she addressed a chamber filled with centuries of suspicion and fear. "Honored delegates, the evidence you see is accurate. We possess the fleet you have detected. 500,000 Dreadnought-class vessels exist in human-controlled space. But your interpretation of our purpose is flawed." A murmur rose. The Githian delegate coiled a frond in derision. "Flawed? You expect us to believe that weapons capable of planetary annihilation are harmless?" "Yes," In said, her tone deliberate. "These vessels, while capable of destruction, serve purposes beyond military objectives. They are creations of human ingenuity, fueled by curiosity and artistic expression. They are, in essence, our civilization's canvases." The chamber fell silent. Every species struggled to reconcile the logic of war with the chaos of human creativity. Prefect Zil nodded subtly, understanding the nuance. "If the vessels are non-hostile, we must find a way to verify intent before committing the assembly to war." Harkot's jaw tightened. "Intent is irrelevant. Capability is fact. A species that could annihilate us all, whether by design or accident, represents an existential threat." In's gaze hardened, unyielding. "And yet, Admiral, the very unpredictability of humanity is also its strength. You cannot model our decisions because we do not act solely from self-interest or fear. We act from curiosity, boredom, and creativity. We are capable of immense destruction, but equally capable of astonishing beauty." The chamber was still, each delegate processing the paradox. A species that could destroy planets with casual ease, yet spent centuries building dreadnoughts as artistic expressions, was a force unlike any other. The final moments before the vote stretched into tension-filled silence. Inns met Harkot's gaze and the assembly's scrutiny. "You must choose whether to act on fear or understanding. Humanity exists outside conventional frameworks. Our actions are not predictable. Our creativity, though potentially dangerous, is also our defining strength." For the first time, the chamber hesitated. Even Harkot, hardened by decades of strategic command, felt uncertainty creep into his calculations. What is the cost of preemptive war against a species whose logic is incomprehensible? What is the benefit of understanding them first? As the countdown to the vote began, In's mind raced. She would need to find the source of these vessels. She would need to explain the absurdity, the genius, the sheer human chaos that animated 500,000 dreadnoughts. Failure meant war. Success meant diplomacy, survival, and perhaps, for the first time, true understanding between species. Above the Sharnak Nebula, the stars glimmered coldly. The galaxy held its breath. The galaxy outside the Sharnak Nebula glimmered with countless stars, each a potential world, each harboring secrets. Yet none were as enigmatic, or as human, as the fleets now revealed to the stellar assembly. In's Reli shuttle glided silently toward the human-controlled sector known only by its codename, Haven 12. The coordinates had been smuggled past the Galactic Council's surveillance arrays. No one outside humanity's inner circle knew the exact location, and In's intended to keep it that way, for now. Her hybrid Valani physiology allowed her to perceive the shuttle's energy signature like a living pulse. Humans had designed this vessel with discretion in mind. No scanner could detect it unless it allowed itself to be seen. The thought of humans hiding this technology from the galaxy was unsettling, yet exhilarating. The shuttle's cockpit projected a 3D star map, tracing a labyrinth of nebulae, gravitational anomalies, and uncharted asteroid fields. Each step brought her closer to the origin of the 500,000 dreadnoughts. According to intelligence fragments intercepted from rogue traders, the fleet wasn't just a military force, it was the product of a guild of engineers, scattered across multiple star systems, each working independently yet synchronized by something far more advanced than any alien logic. "Are you sure this is safe?" Inns asked aloud, though the shuttle was empty. The human AI co-pilot, an adaptive consciousness named Juno, responded with its characteristic calm. "Safe is relative. Humans rarely act predictably. Your presence here is more dangerous to your own assumptions than to them." Inns shivered despite the temperature control. She had spent decades studying humans, Not in the sterile labs of xenobiology but in the field, observing them directly. What made them dangerous wasn't their technology, it was their adaptability, their creativity, and their uncanny ability to exploit chaos. Hours later, the shuttle emerged from a dense asteroid belt. Beneath them lay a sprawling orbital facility, a lattice of docking stations, energy conduits, and sleek, angular structures of shining metal. Hundreds of dreadnoughts, far larger than anything she had imagined, floated in orbit. But what shocked Ins most was how alive it all seemed. The ships weren't simply constructed, they were curated. Each hull bore patterns resembling terrestrial artwork, fractal designs, and cryptic symbols that seemed to shimmer under the light of nearby stars. The dreadnoughts moved in subtle synchronization, like a school of cosmic fish, each aware of the other's trajectory. It was as if they were breathing. Are they conscious? Ins whispered. Not conscious in the human sense, Juno replied. But they are networked through quantum-entangled cores. Decisions propagate instantly across the entire fleet. They are aware, adaptive, reactive. They can learn. Ins mind raced. 500,000 dreadnoughts, networked like a single organism. No alien species had ever achieved such coordination. Even the Stellar Assembly's greatest military minds would fail to predict their moves. Her shuttle docked at a landing platform. A human figure approached, a tall man, his uniform simple, yet his presence commanding. He carried no weapons, no symbols of rank. His name was Kevin Jenkins and he was the guild master of this extraordinary fleet. Welcome Insreli, Kevin said, his tone calm, almost amused. I assume the assembly sent you? They did, she admitted. They think you are preparing for war. Kevin's laugh was quiet, almost musical. War? Perhaps they misunderstand the nature of humans. We prepare, yes, but not always to destroy. Sometimes preparation is expression. And studied him carefully. His confidence was unnerving, yet there was no malice, only certainty. Expression. Yes. Each dreadnought represents centuries of research, creativity, and problem-solving. They are more than weapons, they are statements. A species capable of this, yet choosing diplomacy over conquest, challenges every assumption you've made about us. She hesitated. But if the Stellar Assembly sees this, they will attack. They cannot comprehend. Kevin's gaze hardened. That is why you are here. You will explain, but not just with words. You must show them. Let them witness the fleet in operation. He led her to a command center, walls lined with translucent screens displaying simulations of human dreadnought maneuvers across multiple galaxies. Each simulation showed hundreds of thousands of ships performing maneuvers that no alien fleet could replicate. They weren't just simulations, they were probable outcomes, calculated and tested by the human mind and quantum computation. The assembly doesn't see the beauty in this, Kevin said. They see only the potential for destruction. Humans are inconsistent in ways that terrify other species. We think differently. We calculate probabilities, yes, but we also improvise, explore, create. That unpredictability is the essence of our strength. Ins absorbed this. Her years of training had prepared her to negotiate, to mediate, yet nothing in her experience matched this. Here was a species that could annihilate countless civilizations but chose to build, to create, to surprise. And perhaps the most terrifying part was that their motives couldn't be predicted by any model. Kevin gestured to a large viewport. Beyond the orbital station, the fleet moved in formation. The designs weren't symmetrical. They flowed like liquid, shifting in response to imaginary currents. And then, without warning, the dreadnoughts executed a maneuver so precise, so intricate, that it resembled an interstellar ballet. In's eyes widened. The fleet was alive, not biologically but conceptually. Every ship aware of every other, responding to stimuli, learning from its environment. A test, a practice, a statement. The galaxy itself was the stage. This is why the assembly fears us, Kevin said. Not because of our weapons but because we refuse to be predictable. They cannot anticipate our choices. And yet, we are not malicious. Humanity's creativity is both our shield and our sword. And perhaps, if understood correctly, it can be a bridge instead of a threat. Ins realized the enormity of her task. She would need to convince the Stellar Assembly that capability does not equal intent. That a species capable of wiping out entire civilizations could also act with astonishing restraint. She would need to prove that humans, despite their power, were not monsters. Before she could respond, an alarm blared. Red lights flashed across the command center. Kevin's expression remained calm, almost serene. Relax, he said. It's a drill. Our systems test for potential threats constantly. Even we must remain aware of what we can destroy and what we must protect. Ins exhaled slowly, tension leaving her body. The drill was a reminder. Humans understood power, yet valued control. They had the ability to annihilate, but chose restraint. As they watched, the fleet executed its final maneuver, forming a pattern visible across the orbiting station. It wasn't just a display, it was a message, a calligraphy written in the language of movement and precision. Ins understood immediately. This was what she would show the stellar assembly. Not just words, not just explanations, but proof. A demonstration that humans were fearsome yet restrained, unpredictable yet honorable. Kevin turned to her, eyes sharp. You must go back. They will listen to you more than they would listen to us. Humans are difficult to understand from the outside. But from within, with a bridge like you, they may finally see the truth. Ins nodded, determination hardening in her chest. The first step in preventing a galactic catastrophe was understanding, and the first step in understanding humanity was to witness its complexity firsthand. She departed the orbital station, shuttle engines glowing softly in the vacuum. Below, the fleet continued its silent, mesmerizing dance. Every ship a symbol, every maneuver a statement. Humanity was dangerous, yes, but dangerously alive. And the galaxy had never encountered anything like it. The stellar assembly chamber was enormous, so vast that even the largest Crothed delegates had to crouch slightly as they entered. Holographic banners representing hundreds of civilizations flickered above the council floor, each a testament to the galaxy's diversity and its fear. Ins Relly floated into the chamber aboard the diplomatic shuttle, her human-guided mission clear, convinced the assembly that humanity's fleet, while unparalleled, was not a threat by intent. But the weight of her task pressed down like a gravitational tide. This was no simple negotiation. This was a trial by perception. The assembly had convened on an emergency vote. Several species, spooked by fragmented intelligence reports, had already pushed for preemptive containment of human fleets. The room buzzed with tension as delegates whispered in their native tongues, translating and transmitting data at speeds far faster than any human could process. Ins stepped forward to the podium. Her hybrid Valani physiology allowed her to broadcast her presence in a form visible to all delegates, using subtle bioluminescent signals that enhanced her words with emotion, a kind of primal honesty that humans and aliens alike could instinctively read. Honorable delegates, she began, her voice steady despite the enormity of the room. I come not to justify humanity but to show it. You have seen reports of their fleets, their dreadnoughts, their weapons. You have seen fragments of their power. But power alone does not define a species. Intent does. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Some delegates leaned forward, others recoiled slightly. In's words carried a weight she did not generate herself. They carried the presence of truth in motion. Humanity is unpredictable, she continued. They do not act as other civilizations do. They improvise, they experiment, they learn. And yes, their fleets are capable of annihilation beyond comprehension. But they do not act without reason. They do not act without purpose. And most importantly, they do not act without awareness. At that moment, the chamber lights dimmed. Holographic projectors flickered to life, displaying a real-time simulation of Haven 12's fleet. The dreadnoughts appeared in formation above an alien planet, their fractal hull designs shimmering like living art. The delegates gasped. Many had never seen anything move with such precision and yet such creativity. Each ship executed maneuvers that no algorithm could predict, spiraling and weaving in patterns that seemed chaotic at first glance, but which revealed an underlying intelligence when observed closely. Observe, Ins instructed, how the fleet adapts in real time. This is not destruction for the sake of power. This is learning, exploration, and coordination on a scale your species cannot imagine. Every ship communicates with the others through quantum-entangled cores, responding instantly to changes in the environment, threats, and opportunities. It is not a weapon, it is a living statement. A Crothed delegate hissed, its multi-jointed limbs trembling. You mean to say, this fleet has consciousness? In a sense, Ins admitted. Not consciousness as you understand it, but networked awareness. They react, adapt, and improve. Their actions reflect the human mind that designed them. And that mind, while capable of extraordinary violence, chooses restraint. The chamber fell silent. Even the most skeptical delegates could not deny the elegance and complexity displayed before them. For the first time, the idea of humans as mere brutes was challenged. Then a Threxian counselor, its carapace glinting under the projector's light, spoke. Your words are compelling, Insrelli, but how can we be certain? Intelligence fragments can mislead. The galaxy has seen humans wield destructive tools before. What prevents this artistry, from being turned into annihilation? Ins smiled faintly. She had anticipated this question. Because humans measure their actions not just in effectiveness but in consequences. They understand responsibility. Every dreadnought you see here has been tested repeatedly, not just for strength but for ethical outcomes. Their creators anticipate not only what can be destroyed but what should be protected. It is a rare balance of power and conscience. The holographic display shifted, showing smaller-scale simulations, planets saved from natural disasters by the fleet's intervention, hostile fleets neutralized without loss of life, and rogue AI systems contained through ingenuity rather than brute force. Whispers turned to astonished murmurs. Some delegates nodded slowly, while others exchanged uncertain glances. The galaxy had long feared that humans were chaotic annihilators, but what they saw was strategic, creative, and deliberate action. Yet there remains doubt, Ins admitted. And doubt can lead to fear. Therefore I propose a demonstration. Not simulation. Not prediction. A direct test of humanity's ingenuity, conducted here, under your observation. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Demonstrations were rare, and dangerous. Most civilizations refused to show raw capability to outsiders, fearing espionage or sabotage. Yet In's calm demeanor and the sheer audacity of her proposal silenced objections before they formed. Minutes later, a fleet of human drones, controlled by Kevin Jenkins himself, appeared above the assembly chamber. Each drone was a miniature dreadnought, capable of complex maneuvers. They weaved around the chamber in an intricate, synchronized ballet, constructing patterns visible even to the naked eye. The delegates gasped again. The drones danced around energy fields, navigated obstacles, and even executed maneuvers that seemed intentionally playful, yet efficient. There was no aggression, yet no delegate doubted the drone's capability to destroy if ordered. You see, In said softly, this is the paradox of humanity. They are capable of destruction beyond comprehension. And yet, they choose creativity, restraint, and understanding. They are not bound by predictable behavior because they do not seek to harm without reason. Their unpredictability is not chaos, it is freedom. And it is what makes them uniquely human. The room erupted in debate. Some delegates argued that such power was inherently dangerous. Others marveled at the unprecedented discipline and innovation displayed. The vote was postponed. Instead, the assembly called for a council of observation, a group tasked with studying human behavior firsthand before making any binding decisions. Ins exhaled. It was a small victory, but a victory nonetheless. Humanity had survived judgment, not through fear, not through threat, but through demonstration of its principled strength and creativity. As the session adjourned, Ins received a private message from Kevin Jenkins. Well done. They have seen a glimpse of the truth, but they have not yet felt it. Prepare for the next step. Humanity's final demonstration is still ahead. Ins' heart pounded. The final demonstration? What could surpass the elegance, precision, and restraint she had just shown? And what dangers awaited if even a fraction of the assembly misunderstood? The answer became clear as she returned to Haven 12. The galaxy had not yet seen the full scale of human potential, the combination of ingenuity, resilience, and unpredictability that could reshape the stars. The dreadnought fleet awaited her. They had trained, adapted, and evolved while the assembly debated. Humanity's message was far from finished. And when it would be delivered, the galaxy would be forced to confront a truth it had long refused to accept. That humans were not merely another species in the cosmic order, they were an unstoppable force of creativity and will. The shadows of doubt still lingered in the assembly's halls. But the first cracks in fear had been made. And from those cracks, humanity would soon illuminate a path that no civilization could ignore. The stellar assembly had reconvened in the towering chamber atop the central spire of Haven 12. The atmosphere was electric, charged with whispers and speculations that rippled through every delegate's neural interface. The demonstration of human drones had left many in awe, but awe alone was not enough to earn trust, or forgiveness, for a species feared across the galaxy. Ins Relly entered once more, her bioluminescent patterns dimmed in contemplation. Kevin Jenkins' message still pulsed in her mind: prepare for the next step. Humanity's final demonstration is still ahead. The next step was not mere demonstration. It was a gauntlet, a test designed to reveal human ingenuity, morality, and adaptability on a scale the galaxy had never imagined. At the podium, Ins addressed the assembly. Honored delegates, You have witnessed fragments of humanity's capability. You have seen their precision, their restraint, and their creativity. But understanding a species requires more than observation. It requires immersion. Therefore, humanity proposes a challenge, the gauntlet of adaptation. A test of skill, strategy, and ethics, conducted here under your eyes, across your systems, and against obstacles of your design. The chamber erupted in debate. Some delegates bristled at the audacity of the humans, equating a voluntary test with provocation. Others leaned in, their curiosity ignited by the promise of witnessing a species that had never truly revealed its full potential. Finally, a senior Crothid counselor rumbled, its voice like grinding stone, "If this gauntlet is accepted, it must be absolute. No interference, no manipulation. Humanity will face conditions we set, scenarios we create, and consequences they cannot anticipate. If they succeed, we may reconsider our stance. If they fail, they will be contained." Inns inclined her head. "Agreed. Humanity accepts your conditions." The gauntlet began in the orbit of Voron Prime, a planet renowned for its extreme environmental conditions. One hemisphere boiled with sulfuric storms, while the other was locked in perpetual glaciation. A fleet of alien ships, representing the Assembly's most advanced technology, lay in orbit, armed to test every conceivable human weakness. From the orbital platforms, Kevin Jenkins addressed his fleet. "Dreadnoughts, drones, and task forces. This is not a battle. This is an exercise in ingenuity. Every scenario is designed to challenge your creativity, adaptability, and ethics. Proceed carefully, learn, adapt, and above all, show them why humanity cannot be predicted or contained." The human fleet split into coordinated task groups, each assigned to tackle a different segment of the gauntlet. On the sulfuric hemisphere, atmospheric disturbances threatened to melt even the most heat-resistant craft. Yet human engineers had pre-programmed drones capable of dynamic shielding, adaptive navigation, and real-time energy modulation. The drones weaved through volcanic plumes, neutralizing hazards not by brute force, but by clever redirection, transforming lava flows into temporary energy conduits. Meanwhile, in the glacial hemisphere, sub-zero storms shredded conventional hulls. Human ships adjusted fluid dynamics and heat emission on the fly, using the icy terrain as both a shield and a guide. When a simulation of hostile fleets appeared, human drones anticipated attacks and countered without lethal engagement, prioritizing containment and disruption over destruction. From the Assembly's observation decks, delegates were transfixed. Every move human ships made was both unexpected and precise. No alien tactic they deployed had a predictable outcome. For every trap laid, humanity found not only a solution but an innovative alternative that exceeded expectation. Yet the true test lay in the ethical dilemmas embedded in the gauntlet. Holographic projections simulated civilian colonies under threat, wildlife ecosystems at risk, and ancient alien ruins at the brink of destruction. Humans were given a choice: achieve the objective by annihilation, or seek a solution that preserved life and history. Every time humans chose preservation. Not because it was required but because it was fundamentally human. They reprogrammed hostile AI to defend rather than attack, rerouted energy flows to shield endangered populations, and devised containment strategies that minimized collateral damage while neutralizing threats. Inns watched the Assembly delegates' reactions closely. Some had begun to whisper among themselves, "They are different, not only in strength but in judgment." Yet not all were convinced. A counselor of the Threxian hives hissed, "Clever, yes, but unpredictable. How long until that unpredictability becomes a liability?" That question was about to be answered, though not in the way anyone expected. As the gauntlet progressed, an unforeseen variable appeared. A rogue stellar storm, amplified by a failing Voron Prime magnetosphere, threatened to destabilize orbital paths and destroy both human and alien craft indiscriminately. The Assembly had not anticipated this natural hazard, but the humans adapted instantly. Kevin Jenkins' voice resonated across the fleet. "All units, shift from simulation protocols to adaptive survival. Reconfigure energy distribution to counter environmental interference. Utilize emergent patterns, not pre-programmed commands." The human fleet responded as one living organism. Ships shifted orbit, drones sacrificed minor systems to stabilize others, and energy fields were rerouted to prevent catastrophic collisions. In minutes, a potentially galaxy-ending disaster had been mitigated, without a single casualty among human or alien ships. The Assembly gasped. They had expected ingenuity, but they had not expected mastery over chaos itself. The humans did not merely react, they anticipated, adapted, and overcame. When the gauntlet concluded, the humans had successfully completed every scenario, preserved every simulated life, and neutralized every threat. Their ships returned to Haven 12 orbit, appearing almost serene after the storm of activity. INS addressed the assembly one final time. You have set conditions beyond imagination. You have designed hazards that challenge strength, intellect, and ethics. Humanity has responded, not as conquerors, not as aggressors, but as a species capable of responsible power. They have demonstrated not just adaptability, but foresight, creativity, and restraint. Silence filled the chamber. Then, slowly, votes were cast. One by one, delegates acknowledged what they had witnessed. The galaxy's perception of humanity shifted in a single moment. Even the most skeptical counselors found themselves unable to deny the truth. Humans were not merely powerful, they were principled, inventive, and resilient beyond measure. The gauntlet had achieved what no diplomacy, no observation, and no simulation could. It had forced the galaxy to recognize humanity as a force unlike any other. In the aftermath, the Assembly issued a historic declaration. Humans would be allowed conditional freedom to operate within galaxy-wide systems, provided they continued to demonstrate the same principles of restraint and responsibility. Preemptive containment measures were lifted, and diplomatic relations opened on unprecedented terms. INS exhaled. The weight she had carried for months began to lift. Humanity had survived judgment, not by intimidation, not by fear, but by demonstrating the unique combination of creativity, ethics, and strength that made them human. Kevin Jenkins appeared on her comlink, a rare smile crossing his normally stoic face. You did it. The gauntlet was more than a demonstration. It was a message. Humanity is no longer an unknown variable. They are the standard by which others will be measured. INS nodded. And yet, this is only the beginning. The galaxy has seen what humans can do under pressure. They have not yet seen what humans can do when they decide to lead. Kevin's eyes gleamed. Then it's time we show them. Above Haven 12, the human fleet shimmered against the starlight, a living testament to ingenuity, courage, and unpredictability. The galaxy had been forced to see humanity, not as a threat, but as an unstoppable, principled force capable of shaping the future. And the future, as INS knew, was only beginning to unfold. The galaxy had changed. What began as skepticism, then fear, had evolved into a grudging respect. Humanity, once underestimated and dismissed, now stood at the edge of a new era. But respect alone could not secure their place. It had to be earned and defended. Above Haven 12, the human fleet glimmered like a constellation of sentinels. Kevin Jenkins surveyed the star-strewn expanse, his mind already running simulations, contingencies, and strategies for the challenges that lay ahead. Humanity had survived the gauntlet, yet the galaxy remained a volatile mixture of ambition, envy, and latent hostility. INS Relly joined him on the observation deck, her luminescent patterns reflecting the fleet's glow. The Assembly has acknowledged your strength and principles, she said. But acknowledgement is not alliance. Some will bend, others will wait for a moment of weakness. Kevin's expression was resolute. We don't wait for the galaxy to accept us. We lead it. Not through domination but by example. By showing them what humanity is capable of when they unite, create, and protect. The first challenge came sooner than expected. Scouts reported an emergent threat in the Caldari expanse. A coalition of war-hungry species, long dormant, now rallying under the banner of conquest. Their armadas moved with frightening precision, their goal clear. Subjugate weaker civilizations including humanity's nascent allies. The Assembly convened urgently. Alien delegates, who had watched humanity survive the gauntlet, now turned to them for guidance. Many had never trusted humans before, yet they had no choice but to seek their leadership in the unfolding crisis. Kevin stood before the Assembly once more. This coalition is formidable but not unbeatable. Our advantage lies not in sheer numbers, but in innovation, coordination, and the willingness to act with moral clarity. We do not conquer for power. We act to preserve life and liberty across the galaxy. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some delegates were inspired, others remained wary. Yet all recognized the truth. Humanity's approach was unlike anything the galaxy had seen. The battle for the Caldari expanse became legendary. Humanity deployed multi-tiered strategies combining orbital drones, adaptive ship formations, and decentralized AI command networks. Their forces did not simply engage in combat. They engineered the battlefield itself, using natural anomalies, electromagnetic storms and gravitational distortions to neutralize superior enemy numbers. But humanity's real strength lay in ethics under fire. When civilian colonies became collateral risks, human forces diverted attacks to protect them, even if it meant sacrificing tactical advantage. When enemy commanders surrendered, humans offered mercy and integration into cooperative roles rather than execution or imprisonment. Every decision, every maneuver sent a message to the galaxy. Humans were not conquerors. They were guardians, innovators, and arbitrators, a species whose strength was inseparable from its principles. INS watched from her command station as human ships executed maneuvers that defied conventional tactics. Entire alien fleets, previously confident in their superiority, were disoriented. They struggled to anticipate human unpredictability, not recklessness but calculated, inventive strategy. Even the most skeptical assembly delegates could no longer deny it. Humanity's victories were not brute force. They were masterclasses in creativity, discipline, and moral clarity. The Caldari coalition was defeated, not annihilated. Its leaders were captured, educated, and offered integration into interstellar society, creating a precedent never seen before in the galaxy. The news spread like a supernova. Systems that had long feared humanity now sought alliances. Trade routes reopened. Diplomatic channels expanded. The once feared humans were now the galaxy's standard bearers for responsible power. Yet leadership came with challenges. Not all species accepted the new order immediately. Rogue factions, unwilling to submit or collaborate, tested humanity's resolve. Each confrontation became a proving ground, reaffirming what the gauntlet had begun. Humans were adaptable, principled, and unstoppable. Kevin Jenkins convened a council aboard the flagship Elysium. We are not conquerors. Our role is not to dominate but to guide. The galaxy is a network, not a battlefield. Every action we take must reinforce cooperation, fairness, and ingenuity. This is how humans will lead, not by fear but by example. INS nodded. And every step you take will be watched, scrutinized, and emulated. The galaxy will adapt because humans have shown them it is possible to combine strength with responsibility. Months passed and humanity's influence expanded. Star systems once isolated now operated within a cooperative framework inspired by human principles. Scientific exchanges flourished. Environmental restoration projects, led by humans, revived dying worlds. Cultural integration initiatives connected species that had never interacted. Yet humanity remained vigilant. They knew that power, even tempered by ethics, attracted envy and aggression. That vigilance would be tested when a coalition of ancient warlords, the last remnants of a pre-galactic order, challenged humanity's new interstellar network. The ensuing confrontation was unlike any before. Multi-layered strategy, rapid innovation, and moral decision-making under extreme pressure. Every human commander faced choices that could either win the battle or compromise their principles. And every time they chose ingenuity and ethics over brute force. The warlords, expecting chaos and weakness, found only calculated creativity. Their armadas were disrupted by environmental manipulation, AI-driven misdirection, and non-lethal neutralization strategies. Leaders who surrendered were integrated into collaborative projects, further strengthening humanity's network. The result was total. Humanity had not only defended its allies but had transformed the galaxy's approach to conflict itself. Violence became a last resort, diplomacy and innovation the first line of action. The assembly, once fragmented and distrustful, now convened to formalize a new interstellar charter. Humanity's role was enshrined: guardians of cooperative order, innovators of ethics and technology, and leaders by example. No longer were humans feared as a chaotic species. They were respected as a civilization that defined the gold standard for what a sentient race could achieve. INS Relly observed the ceremony, her patterns glowing brighter than ever. They have done more than survive the galaxy, she said softly. They have reshaped it. Kevin Jenkins stood beside her, looking at the stars. We did not just win battles. We created a galaxy where innovation, morality, and strength coexist. This is what it means to be human. In the centuries that followed, humans became legends. Stories of their ingenuity, restraint, and ethical leadership spread to every corner of known space. Civilizations once in conflict now collaborated, inspired by the example humanity had set. Yet humans themselves continued to evolve, never complacent, always learning, always adapting. The gauntlet had been only the beginning. Their destiny was not to rule but to inspire, showing that true strength comes from combining intelligence, creativity, and morality. Above Haven 12, the human fleet shimmered once more. Stars reflected off hulls built not for conquest, but for resilience and ingenuity. The galaxy had feared them once. Now it followed them, not blindly but with respect, curiosity, and hope. And in that light, humanity ascended, not as conquerors, but as the architects of the galaxy's future.